Welcome to our class on Chassidus. We're going to be learning a beautiful Chassidic discourse from the Rebbe. The name of the Chassidic discourse is called Haltzou. The Rebbe said this Chassidic discourse in Shabbos, Parshas, Matos, and Masai, that year is the 28th day of the month of Tmuz, which is also the Shabbat that blessed the month of Menachem Av in the year Tavshin Mem 44 years ago. So again, the Chassidic discourse is based on the verse in this week's Torah portion where it says, "Haltzou me'itchem anashim atzava." You should gather together people for you, ready to wage war, to go ahead and wage war and to take revenge of Hashem with the Midianites. And it says you should take 1,000 for every tribe, for all the tribes of the Jewish people. You should go ahead and send out to war. So Rebbe said it's known, the questions that are pointed out by the Alter Rebbe in his classical works in the Likutei Torah, and also in the Chassidic discourse of Haltzou, the famous Haltzou, and also the Chassidic discourses of the previous Rebbe. And the question is, why did it say Haltzou? In other words, it should have said Haltzou. Because what does Haltzou mean? Haltzou means, all right, everyone gather up, everybody. But since it says Me'itchem from amongst you, so it's not everyone went. So it should have said Haltzou, not Haltzou. Haltzou means everyone. And Haltzou would have been referring to a smaller amount that actually went. That's question number one. Question number two is, it says L'chol Matos, of all the tribes. And what does that mean? All the tribe. It should have said Me'kol Matos, from the tribe, because they didn't all go, only a part of them went. Also, what does it mean when it says the revenge of Hashem and the Midianites? It already starts off and it says Nekoim Niklas B'nai Yisrael. Already says it's going to take revenge. So why does it repeat itself? So Rabbi says we're going to understand this with an introduction to understand what is the klipa, the shell, the negativity, the negative energy of the Midianites. And if we're going to wipe out Midianites, that's physical. But what is the spiritual significance of the Midianites that we have to go and wipe them out? So Rabbi explains the klipa, the negative energy of Midian is the idea of someone that opposes Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, someone that opposes Hashem. In other words, Midian comes from the word of Modoin and Meriva, someone that's fighting, quarreling. In other words, what's the whole negative energy? What's the klipa of Midian? It's all about pirud and machlokes. It's all about division and arguments. Up to the point, not only is it arguments and division, but it's literally hatred for no reason and causing people not to like each other, which is the opposite of peace and love and holiness. In holiness, it's all about peace and love. Opposite of holiness is all about quarreling and fighting. And the Rebbe Rashab said that the mitzvah that God gives us to love our fellow like ourselves, that is a vessel to loving Hashem. You want to love Hashem? Love your fellow like yourself. You'll be loving Hashem. And therefore, when you have the klipa of Midian, which is all about quarreling and fighting and bigotry and hatred, etc., animosity, you're literally opposing Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which what Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is all about holiness. It's all about peace. It's all about peace and getting along. And that's why, unfortunately, the Rebbe says this is the reason for the unfortunate fact that this exile that we're in is so long. Because in the exile of Babylonian, which even though there was terrible sins people did, and like Chazal tell us, it says in the Talmud, that Hashem was willing to forego on the three cardinal transgressions. But he was not willing to let go on the sin of not learning Torah. But nevertheless, we were in exile, okay, for 70 years. But this exile that we're in, and there quotes a verse in the prophets, Aver Kotzer, Kala Kayetz, Vadayloi Neshanu, which means that the harvest passed and the summer passed, and guess what? We're still in exile. So why are we so long in exile? And there was this one reason only, because of, and I'll say it in Hebrew, and I'll translate it, because of Sinas Chinam. Because people hate each other for no reason. But and remember, it's not a contradiction what it says in the Talmud. The Talmud says one of the reasons why, because the first exile, their sins were revealed. the three terrible sins of Gilei Aroyos, Shrichas Dam and Avodah Zarah, which means forbidden relationships, killing, and idolatry. So because it was revealed what their sin was, okay, so it was revealed how long they're going to be gullus for. It was for a certain amount of time. But afterwards, since it wasn't revealed, because it was all about not learning Torah, hatred, etc. So that's the reason why we're in gullus. No, it's not a contradiction, because the reason why this gullus is so long, as we said before, is sinas chinam, because people hate each other for no reason. And the fact is that it goes together. Because what does it mean that it wasn't revealed? Their sin is not revealed. That's hatred. That's hatred. Why is that hatred? Because you convince yourself that you're not hating them for no reason. You believe you're hating them for a reason. And you think, no, not only am I hating them, I'm justifying why I'm hating them. And there's nothing wrong with hating them. And matter of fact, there's nothing wrong with me. The person that I'm hating, there's something wrong with them. And remember, he actually said it in Yiddish, he's not at fault. And the other person's at fault. And since it's not revealed their sin, therefore, unfortunately, we're going to be in gullus. The Rebbe is saying so powerful. I want to talk about this for one moment, just to explain what the Rebbe is saying. It's things like this. When somebody hates somebody for no reason, that's why we're in gullus. So you can say somebody for no reason. The guy, let's say someone did something wrong. Someone's not behaving the way they're supposed to. I have a reason why to hate them. So that's the problem, because you're saying the person did something wrong. But meanwhile, the only thing you're doing is hating them, and that's why, unfortunately, we're in gullus. And that's why the Rebbe says, why before Matan Torah, before Hashem gave us a Torah, what had to happen was we had to go ahead and break the klipa, the negative energy of Midyan, which is all about divisiveness, and obviously the ultimate goal to create peace and to create love. And what how did that happen? It happened through Yisro, because Yisro came along and he was an idolater of Midyan. And he says, Ata Yadaiti, now I know. It's not about fighting, it's about love, it's about oneness. And like the Zohar says clearly, that was the reason why Yisro had to be convert before Hashem gave the Torah, because we had to get rid of the negative energy. Because what happens was when Hashem gave the Torah, Matan Torah, what got revealed was Yud Kei Vav Kei, the infinite name of Hashem. And like it says clearly, by Yered Hashem el Har Sinai, God came down on Mount Sinai. And what does he say? Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. I am God, your God. What does that mean? That Yud Kei Vav Kei became our energy, our power. So in order for Yud Kei Vav Kei to become our power, we have to go ahead and get rid of Midyan. We have to go ahead, get rid of what opposes Yud Kei Vav Kei. We have to go ahead and get rid of all the divisiveness. And that's why we'll understand that in all the places and all the generations and all the times, that in order to have the full revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's necessary to go ahead and get rid of the klipa of Midyan specifically. And why is that? Never explains it this. We know that the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, comes from the expression of mahava, to create. What does that mean? Hashem creates something from nothing. It didn't exist, Hashem created it. That's one idea of Yud Kei Vav Kei, that he creates something from nothing. The second idea of Yud Kei Vav Kei is Hoya he was, Hoyve he is, and Yiyah he will be. Past, present, and future is the same thing. In other words, that Hashem is in a place that he creates the place that exists in space and time and past, present, and future. But what does Hashem do in the space that he created? He creates what? He creates unity. How does he create unity? Because what's the opposite of unity? Past, present, and future, 3 different times. No. What is unity is past, present, and future is all one. Up to the point that on the highest level, that Yud Kei Vav Kei is the most powerful name of Hashem, the explicit name of Hashem, and the essential name of Hashem. Up to the point that in this world, where it says in this world, what does it say when Hashem created the world? It says, Bereshis bara Elokim, that Elokim, the name Elokim used to create the world, and it used the expression Elokim like a plural. Like it says in the prophets, Elokim Kedoshim. Elokim is plural and Kedoshim is plural. So even when it comes to creating the world and use the term Elokim, which is plural, what does it say afterwards? B'yoyim asayis Hashem Elokim Eretz Shemaim. It brings back in the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Why? Because creation, the ultimate creation, comes really what? From Yud Kei Vav Kei. And that's why the source of everything is really one. But the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, went into the name Elokim, which basically almost it's like its shield and a protector, because Yud Kei Vav Kei is too powerful. But the essence of creation came from Yud Kei Vav Kei. And like it says clearly, Gadol Hashem Mikol Elokim. Yud Kei Vav Kei is higher than all the other gods. In other words, that even in the world, the way it's created through Shem Elokim, it goes through the Tzimtzum of Shem Elokim. But who creates it? Who makes the reality? Ultimately comes from Yud Kei Vav Kei. Then what does that mean? That instead of it being, God forbid, multiplicity and conflict and fighting and hatred and just hatred just because, what's the goal is? The goal is to create real unity and real peace, real love, and up to the point that there be just free love for no reason. Just love everybody. Why? Just because. So what the Rebbe is explaining is that the ultimate goal is to create peace. Even though, yes, Hashem created the world to Shem Elokim, and that's why this is yesterday, and that was tomorrow, and this is before, and this is his, and this is hers. But what's the source of everything? Yud Kei Vav Kei. And in Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's all one. It's all about unity. And that will bring us to the greatest blessing, where we have unity, and then we have everything, versus the opposite we have to get rid of. So the Rebbe is going to continue on to explain the idea of unity with the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. So he said we understand this based on what it says in Chazal, that the reason why Hashem gave us a Torah was to create peace in the world. Up to the point where it says that whoever occupies himself in learning Torah for the right reasons, you bring peace on high and peace down below. So literally, the reason why Hashem gave us Torah is to bring peace on high and peace down below. What does that mean? And Rebbe explains it this. When we say peace on high, in Hebrew, I'll say it in Hebrew, it's called Pamalya Shalmaila. What does that mean? It's referring to the first two letters of Hashem's name, the Yud and the Hey. And we know that these two names, not part of Hashem's name, it's also a name on its own. Like it says clearly, Ki Yod al Kes Ka. So it uses the name, Yud Hey is one of Hashem's name. And in reference to the first part of Hashem's name, the Yud and Hey, which is its own name in its own right, so it says, Hanistoros, the ones that are concealed are for Hashem Elokeinu. That's the Palmalia Shalmaila, the Yud Hey, the part that's concealed. What's the Palmalia Shalmata, the lower worlds? That comes from the letters Vav Hey and of Hashem's name, and that's called Vahaniglois. And Vahaniglois, the first two letters of revealed Vahaniglois is Vav Hey of Vahaniglois. Now, based on what we explained before, that what does it say? It says Shem Elokecha, that the ultimate energy, the source of everything comes from Yud Kei Vav Kei. That is the real power of every one of us. So therefore, obviously, these two components apply not only on worlds and spiritual levels, but applies to us as well. In other words, what is Yud Hey? Yud Hey is referring to the Chachma and Bina that we have, the flash of ideas and the expansion of ideas. And the truth is, you have in this what the others don't have. And Chachma is the flash of an idea, Bina is the development of the idea. So each one has what the other one doesn't have. Like it says, you understand what Chachma, and then goes into Bina. So you have two components. And then you have the letters of Vav Hey, practically. The Vav is referring to the emotions, and the Hey is referring to action. Or another division between Vav and Hey would be more like to speech and doing the mitzvahs, which that's the revealed part. And in these ideas, what we have one Torah. So that's referring to what? Basically the division between Yud and Hey, Chachma and Bina, and Vav and Hey, which basically is the emotions and action, or speech and action. And that's why it says, whoever learns Torah for the right reasons, you bring peace on the highest level. What does that mean? It explains like this. The letters Yud and Hey are two opposites. Why? Because what's Yud? Yud is a little dot, and it's a little dot means it's a dot, and there's no breadth to it, and there's no expansion to it. It's just a dot. However, the Hey is all about expansion. There's the right, there's the top, and there's the left, etc. But so you have two different worlds. You have the Yud, which is a dot, the Hey, which is all expansion. So you have to go ahead and make peace between them, because it's all about unity. It's all about peace. So how do you create peace? You create peace by Torah, because as we know that Torah comes from where? Torah, it says Torah comes from Chachma. In other words, it comes from Chachma, but so that's where it comes down into this world. But its source is much higher. And it's almost like it's like the small dot on top of the Yud, which is higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei. So therefore, when you learn Torah, which again we said it's connected from the dot on top of it is much higher, that can bring unity between the Yud and the Hey. So that's the Yud and the Hey on the high level, that Torah brings unity between Yud and the Hey. The same thing also with Mal Yashamata. What the letters of the Vav Hey in Hashem's name. Because what does Vav mean? Vav is a line, which means it's drawing down. Just like literally you look at a letter Vav. And like the author explains at length in Shar Yichud Muna, that the shape of a letter, that shows the way it draws its energy. So Vav is drawing down. Now, when you say drawing down, it itself gets drawn down. What is that? It's referring to the emotions. The Vav is connected to the emotions, which is part of the person himself. And like it explains in Kabbalah, that in a certain regard, the Zah, the small face, is just like Avanim, because it's the thing itself. However, the last Hey is referring to the sphere of Malchus. So, and these three lines in the Hey is also, the Hey is Malchus, and these three lines is referring to the three worlds of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, and there's a little gap, and that's what you have. Unfortunately, you have the division. You have a gap in between. So what do we see? That's the two opposites. But when you learn Torah, and which means you're bringing in the dot from the Yud, and especially even after it comes out from Chachma, it's still higher than the letters of Avhei, and that's how you create peace. So Torah has the power to create peace between the opposite of Yud and the Hey, like explained, and between the Vav and the Hey. Now, what does this mean practically in our service of Hashem? It explains like this: the letters Yud and Hey, which are we call the part that's concealed, what is it referring to? Meditation. And the meditation of what's the meditation of the Yud? Since the Yud is a dot, it's about basically acceptance, without expanding or going into details, etc. Just pure acceptance. However, the meditation on the Hey, no. We meditate how great Hashem is, how wonderful His creation is, and that brings a tremendous expansiveness and going into details and more information and so on and so forth. So it's two opposites. The meditation on Yud is totally accept. Meditation is, hey, no, I want to know what I'm accepting. But by learning Torah, you can create peace between the Yud of the meditation of just the dot acceptance and the Hey, which is all about expansiveness. And the same thing applies to the letters Vav Hey, in practically. Now, Vav is referring to learning Torah, which is learning Torah that's spiritual. Like it says in reference to Torah, my words are like fire. And the last Hey is referring to doing the mitzvahs. And that's doing the mitzvahs is dealing with materialistic things, which is two opposite. Learning Torah is spiritual, doing mitzvahs is the opposite. But when you involved in learning Torah, which Torah we know is all about, Torah is about a lesson, and we know Torah is about giving light, we literally bring in light into all the letters of the Hashem's name, and we create peace between the opposite, up to the point that all the letters become one, total oneness. And like we said, Yud Kei Vav Kei is all about Hoya, Kechad. It's really all one. Past, present, future, all the letters, as different as they are, they're really all one. And that's why learning Torah creates what? Unity, in a literal sense, which is basically in literally in this world. And like it says in the chapter of Kinyan Torah, that the Torah is acquired by when people are dibuk chaverim, we get together and we learn together. And like the verse says in the Torah, es v'hav b'soifa, which means at the end we all become loving one for the other. And like the author explains that loving Hashem and loving the Jewish people, it's all one. So you see, it's all about creating that unity and that oneness, and that will create obviously the real love for Hashem, which will come through loving one another. And that's why the verse says, "Atem nitzavim hayoim kulchem." You're all standing here today. Roshechem, the heads, the wood choppers, the water carriers, all the 10 different types of Jewish people, from the heads till the simple people, which is referring to the 10 different letters in Hashem's name. So even though Hashem's name is a Yud, a Hey, and a Vav and a Hey, it's only 4 letters. But with Mila, when you fill it out, so you take the Yud and you do it Yud, Vav, Dalet, that's already 3. Take the Hey, 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 that's 2 letters, it's already 5. Vav, Aleph, Vav, that's 8. And Hey, Hey is 10. So in Hashem's name, when you fill it out, you have 10 letters, which corresponds to 10 different types of Jewish people. But we're all standing in front of Hashem as one. Because when you're unified, then what happens is not only do you have the Yud Hey Vav Hey, you actually bring in the top of that little yud, which is higher than yud kei vav kei. And like the author explains in Tanya in chapter 32, explaining the whole idea of loving one another, and he explains in a way that we can understand it, and even an animal soul can understand it. And you can even, you can explain to Nanju the importance and the impact and how one can have true love for one and the other. So based on this introduction, never explains, now we're going to see why, when it comes to the klipa, when it comes to the negative energy of binyan, which we said is all about just hating for no reason, we're literally pushing away yud kei vav kei. In other words, the fighting, the animosity, the hatred, that is fighting against Hashem. It's not just when you're fighting with someone else, you're fighting against Hashem. And like the author explains in Tanya, in the name of Tikkunim from the Zohar, that literally the Shechina is in Gullus. Hashem is in Gullus. Because the fact is, every Jewish person is one of the limbs of Hashem. Because Hashem is our heart. Like it says, Tzur Levavi. And that's why it says clearly, Nikmas B'nai Yisrael, when you're basically fighting the enemy of the Jewish people, you're fighting the enemy of Hashem. And what is the war? How do you fight the war? You fight the war with one thing: love for all the Jewish people and unity of all the Jewish people. Create love and unity, that will get rid of Midyan. And that's why it says in the prophets, a very powerful line in the prophets. So it says, Chabar Atzav Ma'Ephraim Hanachloi. So the prophet says, what do you want? Ephraim, the literal translation, Ephraim is stuck to his idolatry. Leave him alone. But what the Rebbe explains beautifully, and he gives a different insight. He gives a Hasidic insight that when the Jewish people are unified, chabar, when we're unified, when we're chibur, when we're connected one with the other, even though that we're connected to idolatry, God forbid. Just like when we had the first temple, where basically the sins were revealed, which one of them was idolatry, which is one of the three terrible sins. But nevertheless, what does the prophet say? When they're connected to one another, leave them alone, because the Jewish people, even though they sin, yeah, we do sins. Guess what? We're still the Jewish people, and we know the Jewish people. It says Yisrael it stands for Yesh Shishim Riba Oisel Torah. Everyone's connected to the Torah. And up to the point that the end eventually will be successful, and no one's going to be left out. And that's why the verse says, "L'chol matis Yisrael," from all the tribes of the Jewish people sent to army. So seemingly we said, what do you mean? It's not the whole tribe; it's a part of the tribe. Why does it say Michol matis Yisrael? Because the fact is, if it said Mei matos, so you're going to think it only applies to the Jewish people down here, but it's not all the Jewish people. And that's why it's saying L'chol matos, that we have to create unity and peace in all the Jewish people, not only in down here, but in all the levels. And like it says clearly, Shasham Alu Shvat, and the tribes went up, Shiftei Ka, the tribes of Yud Kei. In other words, that even though when they're in the level of Yud Kei, in the highest level, we have to create unity. In the level of Yud Kei, the Pamalia Shemaila, the way considered on a higher level. And how do you do this? You have to do it in a way of just loving for no reason, which is the opposite of hatred. And that's why the verse says, Hey Cholsu, gather. And it doesn't say Yecholzu some of them, because no, it applies to everybody. But the fact is, if that's the case, was why only some people did it. So the goal is everyone has to be unified. Who made it happen? It happened by the people that were chosen. And that's why he says 1,000 from the tribe, etc. And the previous Rebbe explained, what does that mean? It's the one that teaches the idea. Elef comes to the word of teaching the idea of loving one another. And it gives power in our spiritual work, and especially in the contrast of Exile, the famous contrast of Exile from the Rebbe Rashab with the additions of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Rebbe finishes off powerfully, and he says like this: when we do our spiritual work of loving one another, and that is basically literally fighting the war of Hashem, which when it speaks about in reference to Mashiach, and this war has to do with every single one of us, because we all have a spark of Mashiach within us, and we do our part of loving everybody. We're going to have a nigla for Hashem. Hashem is going to be revealed, and we're going to be successful in the wars. And Hashem is going to build the base of Mikdash, and He's going to gather all the Jewish people. The real kingdom is going to be to Hashem. It's going to happen very, very soon with the coming of Mashiach. Let me finish off, and he says, "Yavoy v'yigalenu," He should come and redeem us, and He should take us standing upright to our land. And Rebbe finishes off in Heira v'yameinu mamash, which happened very, very quickly, literally in our days. So here you see just a beautiful Chassidic discourse with a practical lesson that we can literally experience and create Geula, redemption, by having true Ahavas Yisrael and not judging and just love for one another. And this will bring the ultimate redemption. God willing, our next class will be in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Have a great and blessed week. Shavua